past objections from the chief, Thunder Bay police officers will continue to be stationed at the hospital. Good evening and thank you for joining us. City police will remain in place at the hospital for at least another year in order to keep the peace in the emergency department.
The hospital began contracting police officers in the summer of 2022, following a spike in violent incidents, including assaults against nurses and other ER staff. The cost of the hospital is around $2,000 per shift, or up to $60,000 per month. A hospital spokesperson says the number of assaults on their staff has continued to decline since police were brought in to work alongside the security guards. Chief Darcy Fleury has expressed concern about staffing challenges as the force has often had to call in officers on overtime because others were subcontracted to the hospital. But despite that, hospital officials say the arrangement has been extended for another 12 months. The hospital will look at other options over the next year for a more sustainable, long-term approach to curbing violent incidents.
The Ford government is looking to expand health insurance coverage for wildland firefighters and investigators.
The soon-to-be introduced legislation, if passed, will give them the same WSIB coverage for occupational cancers, heart injuries, and post-traumatic stress disorder as municipal firefighters. Jessica Clement has the details.
Ontario's Labour Minister David Piccini is addressing health coverage for municipal, volunteer, and wildland firefighters. At a media conference in Brantford Monday morning, he announced new legislation and regulatory changes planned by his government.
We're also proposing to ensure wildland firefighters and investigators have the same presumptive coverage that municipal firefighters have for occupational cancers, heart injuries, and PTSD. This is especially important as Ontario confronts a changing climate that brings new and extreme weather and wildfire risks.
Piccini also announced that, if passed, the proposed legislation will expand presumptive coverage to all firefighters and investigators for skin cancer,
reducing the duration of service required from 15 years to 10. We will once again, with this move, lead Canada in the lowest duration of service required in the country.
Ontario Professional Firefighters Association President Greg Horton was also at the news conference. He noted that cancer is the leading cause of death among firefighters, with 74% of line-of-duty deaths caused by cancers. He says he's glad the government sees that the current legislation requires updating to ensure fairer treatment for firefighters and their families.
The importance of this recognition to firefighters and their families cannot be understated. Those that become ill no longer have to worry about the loved ones they leave behind. On behalf of my brother and sister firefighters and their families, I'd like to thank Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Labour David Piccini, Solicitor General Michael Kersner for their unwavering support for firefighters across Ontario.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The province is cracking down on student cell phone use with some of the strictest new measures in the country.
The restrictions are set to take place ahead of the next academic year, but teachers are already raising concerns about whether they'll be able to enforce the new rules. CTV's Siobhan Morris explains.
Ontario has tried to get kids to disconnect in class before, but it's been a tough habit to break.
Always on social media and everything like that. It's hard to focus, it's hard to concentrate and put your all into your work.
Some kids definitely really addicted. I can tell that half of my class sitting in their phone for the whole period and not doing nothing.
So the province is making a move it insists is not an outright ban.
It's restrictions with a sense of discipline and discretion.
Starting next school year, students in kindergarten through grade 6 will have to keep their phones on silent and out of sight for the entire school day. Kids in grades 7 through 12 won't be able to pull out their phones during class time, with a big exception.
When teachers know it's going to add value, they will allow it. In fact, they will encourage it.
Something students seem to welcome.
Maybe some will revolt, but for the most part, if it stays consistent and they enforce it, it should be good.
But educators worry this policy may go too far.
In fact, a lot over the top.
Reasoning it may not be helpful to act like phones don't exist.
They need to learn how to properly use social media. They need to properly learn how to use their devices. They need to make sure that they don't use their devices to engage in cyberbullying.
Something educators can help kids understand, but this policy does give them more power.
Teachers can confiscate your phone, and there's going to be stuff on report cards somehow reporting on whether or not you were distracted in class.
The government hasn't explained how teachers might be backed up if phones are damaged in the process.
The teachers want the kids to pay attention. It's as simple as that. It's not that complicated. Don't use the phones.
There's also plans for a crackdown on vaping, smoking, and drug use. Kids found with vapes, cigarettes, and cannabis will have to give them up, and parents will be notified. Vape detectors will be rolled out in bathrooms to keep those spaces safe.
Perhaps what we could use would be some more caring adults in the building, hallway monitors, people who would be able to have that connection with students.
Rather than leaning on technology.
And that was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. More than $9 million is going to 4 social housing projects in Thunder Bay. Ontario's Housing Minister Paul Calandra and local MPP Kevin Holland have announced the projects being funded. Lee Noonan has the details.
52 new units of supportive housing will be built in the city thanks to an investment of more than $9.2 million from the Thunder Bay DSAB's Homelessness Prevention Fund, which the province nearly tripled last May. MPP Kevin Holland was joined by Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Paul Calandra for the announcement.
This will make a significant difference as our local partners continue their work to address homelessness and help more people find a safe place to live.
I do understand how hard it is to get announcements like this. I know the hard work that you have to do to make these types of announcements a reality, and then the hard work that comes after all of this.
The DSAB saw their annual homelessness prevention funding increase by $11 million to more than $16.5 million a year for 3 years. More than half of this year's funding will go towards 4 housing projects in the city.
We've been waiting for something like this for years, and it's happened.
The streets are marred with tragedy, and anybody, I know there's frontline service providers here, they are marred with tragedy because we don't have more of these units in the city. So this is a very, very big deal.
The announcement was made at 401 Donald Street East, the future location of a 17-unit transitional housing project that is receiving $4.2 million. The new shelter house facility will offer a managed alcohol program in partnership with Norwest Community Health Centers.
They still do get a drink every hour and a half, but it's smaller amounts, and they're not going to the hospital as often, not being picked up by police as often. They're housed as well, so they can have this step, and then when they're ready, hopefully they can move on to another step in their journey, or they can stay for a while until they figure things out.
Another $3 million is going to Northern Linkage Community Housing, which is partnering with St. Joseph's Care Group to create 22 long-term supportive housing units for people living with mental health issues. Ontario Aboriginal Housing Services is getting $1.3 million to support 4 units for Indigenous people living with mental health or addictions issues, part of a much larger project on Huron Avenue. And the Elizabeth Fry Society is getting more than $7,000 to create 9 units for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Synergy North customers in Thunder Bay will see their electricity bill go up next month, while customers in Kenora will see their rates go down. The Ontario Energy Board recently approved the change, which takes effect on Wednesday. Synergy North says it means all of its residential customers across the 2 communities will now be charged the same rate. Thunder Bay ratepayers can expect to pay about $2.75 more. That's a 2.2% increase, while those in Kenora will pay $2.51 or 1.9% less. Time of use pricing is still available. Anyone looking for more information is encouraged to contact Synergy North.
Yesterday was the International Day of Mourning for workers who've been injured or killed on the job.
The main local event was held at First Wesley United Church and at Patterson Park, where roses were laid at the monument dedicated to those affected. Vasilios Bellows reports.
Honoring those who've been injured or died on the job. Dozens gathered for a ceremony recognizing the International Day of Mourning for workers killed or injured at work. It began with speeches at the First Wesley United Church, from those directly affected by the challenges that come with workplace injuries or fatalities.
People are going to get killed, people are going to die just going to work, just trying to provide for their families.
That includes Teddy Bobrowski, who says a workplace injury more than 30 years ago has prevented him from ever being able to return to employment. He talks about why he'll never stop advocating for better supports.
We don't go to work to die. We don't go to work to get sick, and we don't go to work to get hurt. And it breaks my heart when I see children and I see spouses and they're crying, because their husband, their wife, their kids, their parents didn't come home.
After speeches and a moment of silence, the group walked to Patterson Park to lay roses at a monument dedicated to those killed or injured in the workplace. A recent Association of Workers' Compensation Boards of Canada release says there were nearly 1,000 workplace fatalities in the country in 2022 alone. While physical tragedies gain the most attention, mental health and the lasting effects are a growing concern.
Over 90% of the people that go to the compensation board with a mental illness from work are denied.
Steve Mantis with the District Injured Workers Support Group says they're advocating for this to be better recognized, calling the consequences of not doing so devastating.
Counted and accepted so that we can then have enough inertia to address these issues on a system-wide basis to prevent them from happening over and over and over again.
The Day of Mourning for workers killed or injured on the job is recognized by more than 100 countries around the world. Vicilios Ballos, TBT News.
A BC driver has been charged after a transport truck crashed in the yard of a home west of Dryden this past weekend. The single vehicle collision happened late Friday night on Highway 17 near Minnetonka. The transport appeared to take out a hydro pole before winding up on its side along the property's driveway just feet away from a pickup truck. The crash resulted in minor injuries. OPP have charged a 29-year-old man from Kamloops with careless driving and failing to provide an insurance card.
Smile Cookie Week is officially here, and local Tim Hortons are once again helping raise money for local charities.
Just like in past years, the George Jeffrey Children's Foundation and the Thunder Bay Firefighters Toys for Tots will split the proceeds. Nev Van Pelt has the details.
The first Smile Cookie campaign launched back in 1996, and since then, the annual charitable campaign has raised over $111 million across North America. Each year, the cherished tradition supports local charity and community groups, and last year in Thunder Bay alone, $116,000 was raised and divided between the George Jeffrey Children's Foundation and Toys for Tots, allowing these charities to help make a difference.
The last few years, it has ensured that we're successful, right? When you think we raised somewhere around $160,000 last year, or whatever it was for our campaign separately, and when we got $40,000 from the cookie campaign, that's just a massive percentage, and without it, we wouldn't have had near the success that we had.
Smile cookies are sold for $1.50 each, and with 100% of the proceeds raised being donated, that money is able to make a significant difference in the community.
The importance of the Smile Cookie is that it goes to local charities. So it goes to the Firefighters Toys for Tots campaign and to the George Jeffrey Center. So it's really good that it just stays here and it stays local. We have lots of people from the community come down, volunteer, and help us make these cookies, as well as the efforts from our team members putting in all extra time to help out, and everybody just comes together to do this.
The support of volunteers is essential to the campaign, and every Smile Cookie purchase makes an impact.
We really support the programs, services, and equipment purchases that really help George Jeffrey Children's Center, where they serve almost 3,000 kids each year with their physical, mental, and social special needs. So it's really, really impactful to our community.
Smile Cookies will be on sale at all Tim Hortons locations from now until May 5th. Nev Van Pelt, TBT News.
For the second month in a row, a Thunder Bay area resident has won the Sudbury Hospital's 50-50 draw. The first local winner was Matthew Bauman, who took home $475,000 in last month's Health Sciences North fundraiser. And now a Roslyn resident has won $437,000 in the monthly draw for April. Janet Haycock received the big phone call on Friday.
So did you participate in this month's 50-50 lottery at HSN?
I sure did.
Well, we drew your ticket number this morning.
No way.
Yes.
Anthony? Really?
Really? 430.
Really?
Yeah, $437,968.
That is the best news I've had for years.
For years.
Wow.
Did you win more than $437,000 before?
I'm crying over here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's amazing. I'm so glad I was home.
And if you're wondering, Haycock is a regular ticket buyer for the Thunder Bay 50-50 as well. She says she'll definitely continue to support both fundraisers.
Thunder Bay kids and their families were able to dress up in their best royal garb and meet their favorite princesses and fairies yesterday, and all for a good cause. The second annual Fort City Cadets Royal Ball was held at the Da Vinci Centre, with hundreds of people coming out to support Cystic Fibrosis Canada. Jess Clement has the story.
Crowns and tiaras were sparkling on Saturday for the second annual Royal Ball presented by the Fort City Cadets. Almost 200 young royals made their way to the Da Vinci Centre, dressed in their finest clothing, eager to meet their favorite princesses and fairies. The event was packed with activities to make attendees feel like royalty, including a crown and wand making station, face painting, and dancing. We asked some princesses what their favorite part of the afternoon was.
Crown making. Wand making. I'm excited to talk to the Jasmine and Belle here.
Anne Barbosa volunteers at the Royal Ball every year. She says the reactions from the kids is heartwarming to see.
The amount of children that have recognized me over the last few years and how excited they get to see me is amazing, and the fact that they just accept the magic for what it is at face value and having them have a great time is just amazing. Seeing the magic in their faces when they see all of the princesses, all of the princes, and all of the balloons and all the magic, that's what just makes everything worth it.
The event was held in support of Cystic Fibrosis Canada, a not-for-profit committed to finding a cure for cystic fibrosis. The Royal Ball didn't have a fundraising goal, but co-chair Deb Rosno notes they raised around $5,000 last year. She adds that along with raising funds, it's also nice to host an event geared towards kids.
I have a 7-year-old granddaughter in Halifax, and she's such a princess. And I was trying to find an event similar in Halifax, and there was none. So I'm just excited that we have something in Thunder Bay to offer this for the kids.
It's actually very gratifying to see the kids having fun and give them an opportunity to come out and have an event that's geared toward them.
More information about cystic fibrosis and how to donate can be found online at cysticfibrosis.ca. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm glad all those kids got to meet all their dreams of fairies and princesses, because today wasn't a very fairy tale kind of day for us, weather-wise.
No, this was reality with a thud.
Yeah,
definitely. It was white in my backyard. I don't know about yours, but it definitely had some wet snow and rain throughout the day. Had a little bit of a break in some parts of the region in the early afternoon, but as you can see, this is where we're at right now. There is more to come. Today here in the city of Thunder Bay, temperatures really didn't move much. A low of 0, a high of 2. And although Environment Canada just called it light rain, it was white on the ground. So we're going to call it a light rain, wet flurry mix. And that's with winds gusting 24 to 46 kilometers an hour. Now, temperatures really didn't fluctuate much during the overnight hours and during the day throughout most of northwestern Ontario. To the west, daytime highs on the plus side, just barely, but there. 2 in Red Lake, Kenora, 3 in Fort Francis and Atikokan. Then we start to slip below the freezing mark in Armstrong and Greenstone. They're both at -1, and Armstrong and Greenstone had lows of -3, highs of -1. So that 3-degree range. Once again, as you head along the north shore of Lake Superior, we're back on the plus side. And Sault Ste. Marie had everything from light to heavy rain throughout the day today. They're currently at their high of 6, making them the hot spot. Tonight in the city of Thunder Bay, we will slip back down to the freezing mark once again, but that rain is expected to end sometime after midnight. Then we've got about a 40% chance of a rain-snow mix. Winds will continue to gust about 50 kilometers per hour this evening, but that will taper off as well. It almost sounds like things are improving for tomorrow, but it's just going to be a bit of a lull between rounds of rain and possible wet snow. This is not going to be the most sunny and dry week of your lives.
Yeah, I was going to say when you said it sounded like it was getting better, I was thinking, dare we hope, but
don't hope.
Okay, no hope here.
No hope.
All hope is lost. All right, let's turn our attention to national news. Now, we all know that the healthcare system across this country is in crisis, and when we return after the break, we'll show you yet another tragic example of that and more when your news hour continues.
I would like an investigation into why he was left